morning. Currently, in Hagerstown, it's 34 degrees Fahrenheit with cloudy skies. Tonight, you can expect cloudy skies moving in and out with a low of 33 degrees.
None of what you just heard was real. And it's not the power of some fancy voodoo magic. That's the power of sound design.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, daughter has fun on Yagi, her brain fried. My lady poppin' Zanny, other lady popping Molly, why she waiting on me? Yogi my area, yogi my area, keep on heading.
We all like videos that look good, but the reality is the real story happens in the edit. But don't go wasting your money on flashy transition presets just yet. The part that grips you and makes you want more in your favorite films and YouTube videos isn't in the blue of the Premiere timeline. It's in the green. In my last video, I alluded to the visual what you see only being 50% of the cinematic experience. What about the other half? So many new filmmakers make this thing that should be 50% their entire story, completely neglecting an equally important piece of the puzzle: audio. You've probably heard that poor audio can completely ruin the viewing experience of a video. But what can we do to take audio that's just acceptable and passes to something that is truly great? Let's go for a ride. One of the first things that come to mind when thinking about sound is probably music, and rightfully so. Music can make a scene dramatic and suspenseful, or peaceful and serene. But when you focus only on music, you can commonly run into the music video syndrome, where your cut starts a series of clips to a catchy tune. Now this is super common, and I 100% am still guilty of it myself, falling into it from time to time. Music video syndrome can detach your viewer from the experience, and although it might flow well or be catchy, there isn't something deeper pulling your audience into what you're giving them. Studio Binder said it best. Sound design is how filmmakers flesh out the oral world of their film to enhance the mood, atmosphere, and tone. It is the final and most important piece to create an immersive experience for the audience. Good use of ambient sounds, whooshes, risers, and Foley can transform the environment on screen. But how do we do that? Let's go back to the editing room. So you may be asking yourself, or me for that matter, well, it sounds cool, how the heck do I do that? And where do I get my sounds from? Freesound and Sound Bible are two very popular free options, but for the longest time before I got client work, I just looked up the sounds that I wanted on YouTube and used a YouTube to MP3 converter. Now that I have client work and I need full licensing across everything, I use Artlist for all of my music, and then I use Soundly Pro for all of my sound effects. Artlist has a wide range of really high quality music, and Soundly Pro has probably the best library and user experience I've seen for sound effects. The desktop app literally lets you drag and drop sound effects from the app directly into Premiere Pro. They are both stellar services, and I cannot recommend them enough. So the way I see it, there are 5 main components to creating your overall soundscape. This includes ambient sounds or your background noise, Foley, meaning real life recreated sounds, sound effects, meaning non-natural sounds, voices or dialogue, and then music. So we're gonna take a look at this sequence from the beginning of the video. This isn't an exact step-by-step tutorial on how to do sound design, but rather a breakdown just for time's sake. and we're going to look at how to layer all 5 of these components together in Premiere. I will note this is best experienced with headphones. Alright, so let's build this from the ground up. If we solo just the track of my voice, it is just my voice dubbed onto the video, it's not even real. So if we give this a play, none of what you just heard was real. And it's not the power of some fancy voodoo magic. That's the power of sound design. So even in the spots where nothing's really going on, like in through here, it still feels really empty. So most people's solution to this would be music. However, in this case, I felt the music best came in when the car was actually starting. So we have this whole 10, 11-second sequence where nothing's really happening, but we still want to fill the emptiness. So what do? We hit our first layer of sound design, and you can see over here I have all my tracks labeled. We have voice, music, and then ambient 1 and ambient 2. Ambient sounds are the things that our ears take for granted. They're never really at the forefront of the mix, but they do serve a huge purpose in making our world feel alive. So ambient 1, if I play it here, is a track filled with birds chirping. And then ambient 2 is a busy city street. And this is a good thing to note, that your sounds don't always have to one-to-one recreate what's going on screen. Obviously, I'm not on a busy city street, but I did choose this sound to kind of recreate the feeling that there was more things going on in this clip than there really are. So let's play that real quick. Now there are some effects on these clips, like the low pass filter, that are happening. But again, for time's sake, I will break these down in a future video. Right now, we're just figuring out how to layer all these sounds to best tell our story. And then note, on the second clip where I am here in the car by myself, I did choose... That's the power. Let's actually mute the music here. That's the power of sound design. I did choose to not use any ambient sounds because I wanted to feel like the air is getting sucked out of the room when we land on this final, or second to last shot. So if we play just my voice and just the ambient sounds, this is what it sounds like. None of what you just heard was real. And it's not the power of some fancy voodoo magic. That's the power of sound design. So especially in this beginning part, there's not much going on. You can definitely tell it feels a lot more alive. The awkward emptiness has been filled, and although it's nothing really in the forefront of the mix, it still is present, and it helps break up that awkward silence. So our ambient sounds are there, but none of the things that are actually happening on screen are audible quite yet. And so the difference between Foley and sound effects can be hotly debated, but my take on it is that Foley is the visual things that are actually happening on screen, natural sounds. So for example, the car door closing here, I would consider that sound effect to be Foley. Later on we have, let's see, the keys jingling. I consider that to be Foley. Things that are not Foley are things like whooshes, weird laser sounds that you'll see later on here. So let's go ahead and just stack up the Foley tracks. I have Foley 1, 2, and 3. And this will help you get a better idea of what I consider to be Foley. So there are a few things going on here. It's not too complex. We have the car door shutting. We have my keys jingling around, so I'm holding them in my hand. We have them going into the ignition. We have the car starting. We have a sound of a bike chain, since the bike is shown here in the shot. And then we have the stick being shifted. And then finally we have the car driving away at the very end. Alright, so these are the sounds that sell the realism of your sequence. When paired with the ambient sounds, they make the whole world and the visuals feel much more alive in a way that the sounds from your in-camera microphone just cannot. So if we stack on our ambient sounds as well, then this will start to sound a lot more natural. Let's put my voice in there too. None of what you just heard was real. And it's not the power of some fancy voodoo magic. That's the power of sound design. So this is sounding pretty good already. It sounds pretty realistic for the most part, but we can push this farther with the addition of sound effects. To me, these are things like risers, whooshes, or anything that wouldn't naturally occur with your visuals. So let's play the clip with just sound effects. And none of these sound effects come in until later on, so here's just the sound effects. It's short, but it adds a lot of momentum and flow to the clip, and this is even better simulated when you add in the Foley here. And then let's stack the ambient sounds on top of that for this quick little sequence. So here in the first sound effects track, we have a whoosh. In the one right after that, a sci-fi laser. And then another one of those in the third track, followed by glass breaking. So both of those sounds are actually played in reverse. So this is kind of the effects rack of things you can do to manipulate your sound to get really cool things out of them. Again, I could break this down in a later video. Next up we have another low whoosh. These things add the depth to the sequence to make it go from lifelike to greater than life. When all the sound design, primarily meaning no music, is put together, this is what it sounds like. None of what you just heard was real. And it's not the power of some fancy voodoo magic. That's the power of sound design. Once you can create a compelling world with just sound design, then it is time to add in music as a finishing touch. And it's not the power of some fancy voodoo magic. That's the power of sound design. Yeah. So if we just had music, it'd be super weird if we played it just like that. Voodoo magic. That's the power of sound design. So this is what I mean by the music video syndrome. Once you put music at the back end of your workflow and build up your world first, that is what's going to take your films from good to great.